Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation. So not only are we not going anywhere, we are not going to allow anybody to make us feel less Minnesotan or less American.
Minnesota's largest Medicaid fraud case just got bigger. Today, the Attorney General's office charged 3 more people in a home health care scheme, now exceeding $21 million.
Lou Goose has been covering this case since the start of the investigation. He joins us now with an update. Hey, Lou.
Chris and Julie, the 3 new defendants account for $10 million of alleged fraud while claiming to offer home health services and making reimbursement claims to the government. On the second floor of a Central Avenue storefront in northeast Minneapolis, a home health care company ran its business, according to a criminal complaint, out of a mailbox. Promise Health, referred to by the Medicaid fraud unit as a sham entity, was owned by Abdifatah Yusuf and Lul Ahmed, who are now charged with racketeering and theft by swindle for their alleged roles in a personal care assistant or PCA scam. Attorney General Keith Ellison says now totals more than $21 million.
It involved everything from false documentation, overbilling, billing for services not provided, kickbacks, and diversion of funds for personal uses, among other things.
Legitimate PCAs offer home health services paid for with Medicaid reimbursements, taxpayer money for the elderly and disabled. Promise Health is accused of billing the Medicaid program for $7.69 million, 94% of which was fraud. The couple is accused of spending $22,000 of taxpayer money on furniture, $80,000 at luxury clothing stores like Coach and Canada Goose, and at least $42,000 at luxury car dealers. Prosecutors connected the 3 new defendants to 3 others charged in December, led by Abdi Rashid Saeed.
Do you have personal relationships with the individuals who gave you these checks, Mr. Saeed?
Yes.
A number of the defendants claim to be working out of that same Central Avenue address, running various PCA companies. The Department of Human Services issues the Medicaid reimbursements to these companies.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about yet again another bombshell fraud story coming out of the Minneapolis area involving the Somali community, a community that is under a lot of scrutiny because there is just fraud all over the place. And the worst part about it is that it is fraud dealing with taxpayer dollars. Now, up until this point, we talked about how the activity is so fraudulent that it's ending up in the hands of terrorists, literal terrorists in Somalia. Al-Shabaab, the money that the Somalis are making over here, the taxpayer dollars that they're being given, welfare, that is ending up in Somalia, okay? And in this story, we got to talk about how when these individuals are held accountable, apparently a woke judge is going to step in and overturn the accountability when these individuals get caught and convicted, which is what happened in the story that we got to talk about involving some Somalis who were running fraudulent home health operations, receiving taxpayer funds, Medicaid funds, and not spending it the way that they should have been spending it, but actually enriching themselves. Because again, this was a very, very, very big multi-million-dollar operation that we've seen multiple charges, okay, and convictions in relation to.
Just a few hours from now, one of the defendants in that alleged Medicaid fraud scheme is heading to court.
Yeah, this case is so big, it's being called the largest ever prosecuted by the Minnesota Attorney General. Audrey Russo is live at the Hennepin County Courthouse this morning, tracking the latest developments. Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning. At 9 a.m., the person prosecutors describe as the principal actor in a nearly $11 million Medicaid fraud scheme is due before a judge. And this comes just 5 days after the defense tried to get all of the charges dismissed due to a lack of probable cause. Now, that motion was denied by a judge. Take a look at this paperwork we found through the court website. Now, Abdi Rashid Saeed is charged with 10 counts, including perjury, racketeering, and aiding and abetting a theft by swindle. Saeed and 2 others are accused of operating personal care assistant businesses where they allegedly overbilled clients to secure Medicaid reimbursement funds. Saeed was already convicted in a different theft by swindle case back in 2021, and at that time, a judge ordered that he not have any work with companies that accept Medicaid reimbursements. Again, that was back in 2021. These most recent charges stem from 2020.
All right, y'all, quick break from the show. because this is important. Look, we talk a lot here about standing up for yourself, not letting big corporations, the government, or anybody else push you around. But what happens when real life hits, car accidents, workplace injuries, medical mistakes, and suddenly you're the little guy going up against a massive insurance company? Well, that's where Morgan & Morgan comes in. There's a reason reporters never run out of breaking news. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They've recovered over $25 billion for 500,000 clients with more than 1,000 lawyers nationwide, and they're built on one simple idea. For the people. That means when you're hurt, you don't pay them a dime up front. They only get paid if you win. And trust me, these big companies have teams of big lawyers working against you. You need somebody just as powerful fighting for you. When you hire Morgan & Morgan, it's like hiring a legal army that has your back. If you're injured because of somebody else's negligence, you deserve to be paid. So if you've been hurt in an accident, at work, or anywhere in between, don't roll the dice alone. You can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. You can start your claim now by clicking the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen from your phone's camera. Because at the end of the day, protecting yourself and your family isn't just common sense. It's conservative values in action. Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Now, again, we got to talk about one specific case involving the home health care fraud. Two individuals, a man and his wife, Somalis, right, who were found guilty by jury in a $7.2 million fraud scandal. But a woke judge decided to overturn it, right, to toss it out. And the jury and everybody involved is in shock by what is happening. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
A big reversal in a $7.2 million fraud case in Hennepin County. The judge has thrown out the jury's guilty verdict. This is a case Lou Raguse has been following since the beginning. The judge's actions could make it harder to prosecute state fraud cases in the future. Lou?
Julie, it's extremely rare for a judge to reverse a jury's verdict in a criminal case. Jurors I spoke to today told me it was not a difficult decision to find Abdifatah Yusuf guilty in a Medicaid billing scheme, and they're surprised by this development.
At the August trial for Abdifatah Yusuf, the jury heard evidence that he ran his home health care company Promise Health out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where multiple other home health care companies were supposedly located. Yusuf and his wife Lul Ahmed were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant or PCA scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money on luxury items for themselves. Despite the jury swiftly convicting Yusuf, Judge Sarah West last week decided they got it wrong.
It's amazing. Amazing. I just got to say this because the pattern here, pattern recognition, another white liberal woman, right? Another woke white liberal woman appointed by a Democrat governor, Mark Dayton, back in 2018. So again, this woman was appointed by a Democrat. So just understand where she is at on the ideological spectrum, or where she's likely at, okay? We know what we're dealing with here. Just allowing these people to get away with crimes. A judge overturning a jury, which is extremely rare. Extremely rare. But we're going to get deeper into some of the legal reasons, her reasons behind this. But let's continue.
It's reversing or overturning a jury's verdict.
Defense attorney Joe Tamburino, who's not affiliated with this case, reviewed the decision and analyzed it for KARE 11 News. He says Judge West ruled that the state's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that she believed the state did not rule out other reasonable inferences.
That, in fact, there could have been other reasonable theories other than guilt in this case. That's what it comes down to.
Despite the ruling,
that people understand essentially what the judge is saying here. The judge is saying that the state failed to prove that this individual, Yusuf, was directly involved in the fraud or knew about the fraud, right? So the state proved that fraud occurred, but apparently it was his brother that was actually orchestrating the fraud. And this guy was just a paper owner, right? He only owned the facility right? But he wasn't actually materially participating in it, nor did he know about it, nor did he benefit from it, right? That is essentially what the judge is saying, is that the state failed to prove that. Now, you know, could that be on the state, right? The state prosecution not doing enough due diligence? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm just telling you the perspective that the judge is coming from. And that is essentially where this came from, right? She's basically saying that, yes, the state proved that fraud occurred. It's just that this dude being the owner is not enough to actually convict him of anything. You actually have to prove intent, that he knew about it and that he was participating in it and that he benefited from it, which apparently is something that the state did not prove to her liking, right? Despite the jury's conviction here.
And even Judge West wrote that she is troubled by the manner in which fraud was able to be perpetuated at Promise Health.
I was stunned.
State Representative Kristen Robbins, chair of the House Fraud Prevention and State Oversight Committee, says she's now reviewing if any state laws need to be tightened.
We want to strengthen state law so that we can get prosecutions out of these cases, because clearly a jury thought he was guilty.
Jurors in the case can't believe the decision.
I am shocked. I'm shocked based off of all of the evidence that was presented to us and the obvious guilt that we saw based off of the said evidence. It was not a difficult decision whatsoever. The deliberation took probably 4 hours at most. Based off of the state's evidence that was presented, I was beyond a reasonable doubt.
The attorney for Mr. Yusuf, Ian Burrell, sent me a statement today that says, in part, Judge West's ruling affirms what we have maintained from the beginning, that our client, Mr. Yusuf, was wrongfully accused and did not commit fraud or racketeering. The Attorney General's office filed an appeal this afternoon, so the Minnesota Court of Appeals will take a second look at this decision. Julie.
So, Lou, did Mr. Tamburino, did he have any kind of emotional reaction? And this is pretty stunning. This does not happen.
Yeah, he leaned towards the idea that this was kind of a one-off and that it would have a good chance at appeal. But the worry is that there's so many other cases just like it where somebody's in the exact same position as Mr. Yusuf but is charged with fraud. And if the judge can determine that maybe they didn't know that the fraud was going on underneath them in the case, then other judges could throw it out just like this one.
All right. Do you know how quickly the Court of Appeals would take this up? Any idea?
Probably months.
All right. Thank you, Lou.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So, yeah, I mean, that's the gist of what's going on here, right? I mean, it's basically a technicality. Well, even though he was in charge of the operation, he didn't know about it, and, you know, the state didn't prove intent. Even though, right, even though the jury, beyond a reasonable doubt, said, hey, this guy was guilty. Right? The judge said, no, I say he's not, right? Therefore, he's not. Now, again, they're going to appeal it. But yes, I mean, it is a big deal because this stuff is so prevalent in Minneapolis, in the Somali community. And if this case can get overturned, then it's going to be harder for the state to prosecute other cases of fraud, right? We know fraud occurred and people need to be held accountable for it, right? And I do think that it's the responsibility of an owner, right? If you own a company, especially if you're actively involved with the company and they're committing fraud, then yeah, I mean, accountability has to be there, right? You have to understand what your employees are doing, the people who are working under you are doing, and to make sure everything is being done correctly. But apparently in this case, this guy was able to get off, at least for now, but it is a big deal because there's so much stuff going on in Minneapolis. And if this guy can get away with it, then others will probably be able to get away with it unless something changes. So we're going to see what happens. But the brother, in this case, he is being charged. And let's hope that he's actually convicted, right? Because, again, I mean, the fraud was proven in this guy's case, in the owner's case. So when it comes to the brother, if he was the one that was orchestrating the fraud, then hopefully, right, this woke judge does not let him off, right? Let's hope that the brother doesn't get off, that at least somebody involved in this faces accountability. But again, we're going to see. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.